Education Minister Priya Manik Chand is underscoring the urgent need for face-to-face learning for all grades in all schools. The Housing Ministry will from today begin receiving applications from interested persons who wish to own a turnkey home and persons desiring subsidy to build their own homes. Dr. Colin Roach died of multiple blunt trauma, the government pathologist has found. A 22-year-old unvaccinated female from Pataro, Siperuni, is among 3 persons that died of COVID-19 in the last 36 hours, taking the death toll to 933. Regionally, the Barbados government is considering adjusting its curfew time in an effort to ease restrictions. Jamaica has passed laws to impose tougher penalties for offenders guilty of human trafficking. And regionally, the United Nations Human Rights Council has demanded the immediate restoration of the civilian-led government in Sudan. Those are the lead stories. The details of these and other stories in a moment.
Hate to stand in lines? Don't worry. KFC has got you covered with their drive-thrus, which are open from 9:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. at Movietown, Blissingen Road, Mandela Avenue, Breedenhoop, Parika, and now the Amazonia Mall. That's right, you can drive through at 6 of their 9 locations. Remember their current opening hours, 9:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Go on down and let your taste buds savor the spices today. KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
And now the news in detail. Education Minister Priya Manik Chand is underscoring the urgent need for face-to-face learning for all grades in all schools. The Education Minister made the remarks while announcing results for the 2020-2021 CAPE and CSEC results today. She says while Guyana performed better in the Caribbean overall, the country has recorded an overall decline in several subject areas.
So we heard the good news of Guyana topping in 20 out of the 33 subjects written at the CSEC level, topping the entire Caribbean region. But we also heard the bad news of Guyana declining in too many subject areas for us to be comfortable. In the interest of our students, in the interest of our children, which is a mandate we have from the Constitution and by our conscience, we must return to the classrooms in a safe way. And that means that we must advise ourselves and avail ourselves individually and collectively of the necessity to get vaccinated and to use the vaccines that are available to the government.
Minister Manik Chand says the ministry's experience has taught it valuable lessons, and one of those is that online learning only is really ineffective.
The usage of technology as a sole means of delivery, we learned this year that it is not as effective as people thought it could be for a variety of reasons, and not only the logistical, infrastructural reasons, because we have those challenges in Guyana, as they do in the United States of America and other developed countries, where we have little connectivity or lack of devices or the interruption with poor internet services. But there are serious limitations and distractions outside of the infrastructural needs and requirements that apply and attend to sole internet and online delivery of education.
In addition, Ms. Manik Chand says several other factors contributed to the overall decline at the 2020 regional exams in Guyana. These include the protracted election, which took 5 months to finalize, along with the pandemic.
And it's not an end-all, it's not a cover-all, it's not a plaster. COVID-19. These students were home for a remarkably long time. From January 2020, where they were home, where nothing almost was done, or if it was done per school and not nationally, until August of 2020. And we know why. We had an election period that was very disruptive to everything in the country, including and particularly to education. And thereafter, we had great difficulty with delivering education to our children online.
The 2020-2021 results for both CAPE and CSEC are preliminary as they are still under review by the regional examination body, CXC. This prevents the announcement of individual top performers. However, the ministry announced that the top schools for CAPE with students gaining a maximum of 9 grade 1s and a minimum of 6 grade 1s are Queen's College and Saraswati Vidya Nikitan. For CSEC, the top schools with students gaining a maximum of 10 grade 1s and minimum of 8 grade 1s are Queen's College, St. Stanislaus College, and St. Rose's High. The Housing Ministry will from today begin receiving applications from interested persons who wish to own a turnkey home and persons desiring subsidy to build their own homes. Chief Executive Officer of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, Sherwin Greaves, outlined the objective of the program.
The program aims to construct 250 core homes and disburse 2,000 improvement subsidies within the boundary. The core home is a complete one flat concrete 2-bedroom structure, and the subcontinent and the subsidies is providing materials up to the value of $500,000. To date, we have commenced construction of 50 of the core homes and have delivered 236 subsidies.
The CHNPA CEO says the program has been extended to include other areas but has limitations in the number of persons who could benefit in this initial phase.
It therefore means we have 150 more core homes to build and 1,764 more subsidies to give. We are confident that we will be able to achieve this target within the prescribed time. The application process will be open for a period of 3 months from today to February 7, 2022. Applications can be uplifted free of cost at all local authorities within the boundary and at the CHPA offices in Region 3 and 4.
Housing Minister Colin Crowell says the government reviewed the program, which was first launched in 2018, and lobbied the Inter-American Bank to expand the area coverage to benefit more persons. He says the program is specifically designed to target vulnerable groups.
It's intended to target the poor and the vulnerable families within communities. And so this is timely because it is also part of the means of reducing the incidence of housing instability and that challenge many of our communities. When family lacks adequate housing, the effects in general can be devastating. Inadequate housing is often linked to homelessness, abuse of all kinds, neglect, high rates of absenteeism, even from work as well from the children's perspective, school, low, and as a result, you have low results on their performance at school.
Applications can be submitted online or at the ministry's sub-office on Camp Street, formerly CIMAP building, or its Region 3 office. Application forms are free of cost. The program is funded with a loan of $28 million US, equivalent to some 5 billion Guyana dollars, and is executed by the CHNPA in Region 4 between areas from Grove on the east bank to Haslington on the east coast. The government pathologist, Dr. Nihal Singh, has determined that Dr. Roach, who was allegedly killed at his clinic by a 25-year-old, died of multiple blunt trauma to the head. His body was then handed over to relatives for burial. Earlier today, the 25-year-old Hilton Oliver Jr. Franklin was arrested for the brutal killing of Dr. Colin Roach. The arrest came one day after the medical practitioner's vehicle was found abandoned. Crime Chief Wendell Blanham says Franklin was arrested in quarantine at the backtrack in an apparent attempt to escape to neighboring Suriname. Sources close to the investigation say Franklin has confessed to killing Dr. Roach. The blood-spattered body of Dr. Roach was found Tuesday night at his International Medical Clinic on Duke Street, Kingston, Georgetown, with his left side face bashed in, a COVID vaccination card on his abdomen, and currency on his lower region. His unbuckled pants were pulled below his waist. Dr. Roach's medical practice was authorized by the United States for would-be permanent residents to obtain medical examinations. A 22-year-old unvaccinated female from Putaro Siperuni is among 3 persons that died of COVID-19 in the last 36 hours, taking the death toll to 933. The 2 other deaths are 2 females, a 55-year-old unvaccinated and a 64-year-old fully vaccinated. The Health Ministry says it recorded 64 new COVID infections in the last 24 hours. It says 14 persons are seriously sick in the COVID ICU and 46 hospitalized being treated for the virus. In addition, the ministry says 2,451 other persons who tested positive were instructed to isolate themselves at home. The Ministry of Health says 384,934 adults and 27,671 children ages 12 to 17 years old were administered with 1 dose of a COVID vaccine, and 249,557 adults and 18,636 children of the stated group are fully vaccinated. A foreign plane is now under guard at the Madia airstrip where it landed yesterday. Police say that a Colombian pilot and a Venezuelan businessman have been arrested. Investigators say that one of the men told them that they were from Venezuela, they were lost, and were looking for gold. Police say that apart from 2 grams of marijuana, nothing else illegal was found in the plane. The other items included 30 gallons of fuel, a GPS, communication equipment, and identification cards. Those arrested are 32-year-old Juan David Caicedo Villa, a 32-year-old pilot of Villa Vicencio, Colombia, and Gustavo Adolfo Riascos Gomez, a 48-year-old pilot and businessman of Táchira, San Cristobal, Venezuela. There are no visible registration markings on the twin-engine Piper Seneca plane. Within the past 5 years, at least 5 illegal aircraft have been seized in Guyana, and a number of them have been made serviceable to be used possibly by the Guyana Defence Force. Earlier this year, 2 foreigners were caught with hundreds of kilograms of cocaine in a plane at Oriala, Upper Quarantine River. A 22-year-old labourer working at the F&R supermarket, 29 Stelling Road, Breeding Hoop, was allegedly killed yesterday by a faulty metal lift that fell on him. Police investigators say Sudesh Charan, aged 22 years, a labourer of Lot 3964 Westminster, West Bank, Demerara, was walking under a metal lift to go into the supermarket when it fell from the upper flat and pinned him to the ground of the lower flat. Other workers rushed to assist by using a jack and wood to raise the lift. They then pulled the motionless body of Charan from under the lift. The police were summoned, and the body of Charan was taken to the West Damara Regional Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The body is now at the Ezekiel parlour awaiting a post-mortem examination. Police are probing the incident. A 28-year-old Mukka East Bank Demerara man is now dead at the hands of his friend over a dispute for a girl. Police say 28-year-old Paul Braffett of Barnwell North, Mukka, had a dispute spanning weeks with his assailant, who was his friend since September, over a girl. Police say last night both men were hanging out at Arcadia Street, Mukka, East Bank Demerara, when they encountered each other and a heated argument started between the 2 men. They both then brandished knives and stabbed each other several times. As the victim was fleeing the scene, he fell into the western side of the road and became motionless. Police say the suspect then ran to the Mocha police outpost and reported the incident, and he was told of the offence committed, cautioned, and arrested. The suspect was then taken to the Diamond Diagnostic Centre, where he was treated and discharged. A party of police responded to the said report, and upon arrival they found the victim with several suspected stab wounds. The body was taken to the Diamond Diagnostic Centre, where he was pronounced dead, and subsequently transported to the Memorial Gardens Funeral Home, awaiting post-mortem examination. Further investigations are underway. And our regional news. Barbados Prime Minister Mia Motley says she was close to extending the curfew, but the decision depended on the outcome of discussion being held with the medical authorities. The Prime Minister told the media during a post-COP26 virtual news conference for the Barbadian press that the government wishes to extend before lifting the curfew. She says her government was advised to not only look at the vaccinated people, but to consider those persons who have antibodies, as both the vaccinated people and the people who have had COVID-19 with the antibodies that are more or less protected. The Barbados Today News reports it is against that backdrop that the Barbadian government hopes to start the curfew from 11 p.m. or midnight. Members of the Jamaican House of Representatives on Wednesday passed the Trafficking in Persons Prevention, Suppression and Punishment Amendment Act 2021, creating tougher penalties for offenders. Nation News reported that the decision was made to amend the monetary penalties to remove the option of fines in lieu of custodial sentences as a penalty for certain offences that are egregious in nature, and increase the monetary penalties under Section 15 of the Act. Nation News says the amendment also makes a consequential amendment to Section 10 of the Child Care and Protection Act to remove the option of fine in lieu of custodial sentence. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang, in closing the debate on the bill Wednesday, said the government is creating a legal framework that punishes human trafficking while deterring people from getting involved in criminal activity. He told the House that trafficking in people is a heinous activity which provides significant funding to the criminal underworld. The Trafficking in Persons Prevention, Suppression and Punishment Act was passed in 2007 and amended in 2013 to increase the penalties. It was again amended in 2018 to enable a judge to try trafficking offences without a jury. The International Labour Organization, ILO, estimates that globally, trafficking in people generates approximately $150 billion in profits each year. The Caribbean now has its own Global Institute for Climate Smart and Resilient Development. Loop News reports that the institute is resourced by leading experts from the University of the West Indies, UWI, and backed by high-profile regional and international partners. Institutions like the United Nations Development Programme, Open Society Foundations, and Rihanna's Clara Lionel Foundation. The news outlet says the new institute was introduced during a virtual launch on October 7. The first of its kind for the Caribbean Virtual Hub consolidates the UWI's research and teaching on climate change, disaster risk reduction, resilience, and sustainable development. Barbados on Thursday became equipped with a major push to reach its COVID-19 vaccination target with the arrival of 70,200 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. The shipment was the second tranche of a gift from the United States. According to Win FM News, the vaccines were part of almost 600,000 doses shared between Barbados, Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Belize, and Jamaica over the past 3 days. The Win FM News outlet says during an online press conference from Brussels, Prime Minister Mia Motley thanked the U.S. government for the gift noting that the arrival of the latest shipment was a direct result of discussions she had last month with U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. PM Motley says that an increase in the number of fully vaccinated Barbadians would be followed by a relaxation of restrictions, including the current 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. And now for international news, we join the BBC World Service.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. The United Nations Human Rights Council has demanded the immediate restoration of the civilian-led government in Sudan. Its head, Michelle Bachelet, called for all those arrested to be released. The body met as Sudan's military leaders dissolved the boards of all state-owned companies to consolidate their hold on power. Imogen Foulkes is in Geneva.
The council condemned the coup in the strongest possible terms, called for all those arrested, including members of the ousted government, to be released, and demanded a return to civilian rule. It also agreed to appoint a human rights expert to monitor the situation and report back. The council has no power to force Sudan to act, but it can make sure the human rights situation stays in the spotlight.
Costa Rica has taken the unusual step of making vaccination against COVID-19 mandatory for children under 12. The authorities say more than 70% of those aged between 12 and 19 have now received at least one dose of a coronavirus vaccination. Kat Wiener has more details.
In September, Costa Rica became one of the first countries in Latin America to impose a coronavirus vaccine mandate on all state workers. Now it has gone further, adding the COVID-19 jab to the extensive list of basic childhood vaccinations already required by law in the small Central American country. The decision follows the approval in the United States last week of the Pfizer vaccination as safe for use on children. The authorities say they will start vaccinating all under 12s from next March.
The Swedish activist Greta Thunberg has accused world leaders of deliberately postponing much-needed drastic action on climate change, fighting instead to keep the status quo. Addressing thousands of young people in the Scottish city of Glasgow, she again said the COP26 summit amounted to a greenwash festival. She added the world did not need any more distant, non-binding pledges.
We don't need any more empty promises. We don't need any more commitments that are full of loopholes and incomplete statistics and that ignore the historical emissions and climate justice. Yet, that is all that we are getting. They have had 26 COPs. They have had decades of blah, 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 and where has that led us?
One of the regions of Germany worst hit by a recent surge in coronavirus infections has announced tough new restrictions for people who haven't been vaccinated. The state of Saxony says that from Monday, non-vaccinated people won't be able to eat indoors in restaurants, nor go to bars or clubs or attend indoor events. The restriction will last 2.5 weeks. World News from the BBC. Portugal's parliament has approved an amended bill to decriminalise medically assisted suicide after a previous version was struck down as unconstitutional. Friday's vote took place despite some right-of-centre politicians arguing it shouldn't have gone ahead once it was known the president intended to dissolve parliament. It's emerged that a Russian state-owned research ship has been detained in Denmark due to a commercial legal dispute brought by a Canadian tour operator. The ship was detained on the order of a Danish judge on Monday. Here's Danny Eberhard.
The ship, the academic Joffe, belongs to a prestigious Russian Institute of Oceanology. It was impounded on a refuelling stop on the northern tip of Denmark. It's previously been leased by a Canadian company, One Ocean Expeditions, to run Arctic cruises. The firm claims it's owed $6 million in damages linked to an incident in 2018 when the vessel ran aground in northern Canada. Now it's been seized as collateral until the issue is settled. The Danish court said state immunity didn't apply as it's a commercial dispute.
The Palestinian Health Ministry says that a 13-year-old Palestinian boy has been shot and fatally wounded by Israeli troops during a protest in the occupied West Bank. The Health Ministry says that the boy, who's been named as Mohammed Dadas, died soon after being rushed to hospital. The UN Human Rights Agency has expressed concern over the death in Chile of an indigenous man during a military operation in the south of the country. Jordan Yempi Machacan was shot dead on Wednesday in a clash with soldiers in the heavily militarised zone of Biobío, claimed by the Mapuche community as part of its ancestral lands. The UN called on the Chilean authorities to open an exhaustive, rigorous and effective investigation. BBC News.
And that's the news to the moment.
After a hard day's work, delicious comfort food is all we crave for. There at KFC, they've got you covered with a wide choice of delicious, finger-licking good meals from any of their 9 locations, including the Amazonia Mall at Providence. And there are 6 drive-through locations for your convenience. Their 11 herbs and spices are sure to blow those post-work vibes away every time. It's the perfect way to end a hard day. KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
And now here once again the lead stories. Education Minister Priya Manikchand is underscoring the urgent need for face-to-face learning for all grades in all schools. The Housing Ministry will from today begin receiving applications from interested persons who wish to own a turnkey home and persons desiring subsidy to build their own homes. Dr. Colin Roach died of multiple blunt trauma, the government pathologist has found. A 22-year-old unvaccinated female from Petaro Ciparoni is among 3 persons that died of COVID-19 in the last 36 hours, taking the death toll to 933. Regionally, the Barbados government is considering adjusting its curfew time in an effort to ease restrictions. Jamaica has passed laws to impose tougher penalties for offenders guilty of human trafficking. And internationally, the United Nations Human Rights Council has determined the immediate restoration of the civilian-led government in Sudan. The news came to you with the compliments of KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio Newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.
Thank you for choosing News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM. Accurate information blended with great music.
And the time in Guyana is now 18 hours 29 minutes after 6 o'clock. And we continue with some music from 103.1 FM until Ron's Rendezvous, which comes up at 20 hours. So stay tuned.
Christmas time means happy carol singing. Christmas cards from far and near. Happy Christmas to all who care. Happy Christmas for a million years. May your wishes be blessed with cheers. Happy Christmas in a million ways. Christ is born and all the angels singing. Foes and friends join hands and say